Joining us in studio is City of Johannesburg Finance MMC, Dada Morero. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us in studio.
Good evening.
You've said that despite all the challenges with revenue collection and rising debt levels, the City of Johannesburg is indeed able to meet all its obligations. How are you able to do so?
Look, you'd know that our collection is currently sitting at about 86%. Which means on month to month we're sitting at up between 3.9, 3.8 billion, or in some months we go over to about 4.4 billion. So generally we are managing well in terms of our applications month to month. Yes, of course, there are challenges at times which are cash flow related, and from time to time we have to manage and prioritize services that would want to pay at that particular time. But we are not in the red necessarily, because we still managed to honor our month-to-month obligations. We believe that with our performance now, we would see an increase in our collection rate, and would want to see it being constant at 90%. In that way, it would mean the coffers of the city will be much, much healthier. And that's the work that we are trying to focus on. But we do accept that there's also challenges out there. Some people have lost their jobs. Yeah.
In fact, MMC, if you'll allow me, 300,000 people more have become unemployed if we take a look at the stats that have come out. So that in itself points to a very, very, very concerning aspect.
Yes, there are challenges, and that is why we would have to try and stimulate growth into our economy. And in stimulating growth, we'll probably be able to realize jobs and opportunities being created for citizens of Johannesburg and South Africa. So that is the focus that we have to do. And that is why Johannesburg, we're trying as much as we can to stimulate growth through, of course, releasing some of our land parcels to private sector investments, and some of them we did announce them in the budget, which are going to translate into real investments into Johannesburg. So that's the type of work we think it will help us to even get people coming back into jobs and being able to pay for their rates and taxes, which will then increase our collection and also ensure that our finances becomes much, much healthier.
The city has more than 20 billion rand of debt hanging over its head. Yes. And you're saying that you're planning to raise over 21 billion rand from the sale of electricity. Perhaps expand a little bit on how you're planning on doing this.
Well, the structure of municipal funding, which I think is important to first talk about. Yeah. Because what we normally do, you'd know that we raise our own money as a municipality from the sales of electricity and water, and of course for rates and taxes. Rates and taxes would in this year account for just around 17 billion, and of course electricity we have made an assumptions of about 21 billion, with water at about between 10 and 13 billion. So those revenue assumptions is what we will do in terms of raising our capital. But over and above our own cash, we also have to raise loans to support our cash. So we are raising a 2.5 billion loan to be able to support. But there's no municipality that will or metro that will survive easily without raising capital in the market for it to be able to support its budget. The trick here is to ensure that we are able to repay what we have loaned or borrowed. So we have been able to service our debts without any problem, and we are focusing on ensuring we do so. But over and above that, we are also focusing on ensuring that we maintain at least a very good credit rating, which will then help us to ensure that our interests on our borrowings is properly controlled. So we are doing this type of work to ensure that we increase even on our credit rating. Currently, we are basically on a stable credit rating, and we're hoping that in the next review, we should be at the higher rating.
Let's talk a little bit about, I'm looking at reaction to the State of the City address last week by Johannesburg Mayor Kabelo Gwamanda, who rated service delivery in the metro at a staggering 68%. I mean, many have gasped at this number, questioning how he arrived at such a strong scoring when roads are riddled with potholes, sewage pipes are leaking in Diepsloot and never get repaired. And in fact, if you drive on London Road in Alexandra, I mean, that road in itself, very important road, riddled with potholes.
Well, there are challenges, but it does not mean that you go into your satisfactory index. It will indicate which services are performing better, and one of them that is performing better is refuse collection, which is just around 80%, between 70 and 80%, which indicates that you are doing something much better. Yes, there are problems in terms of potholes. There are places that we've been able to close. There are potholes or streets or roads that we've taken a decision that this ones would require a complete resurfacing, and once you take a decision on resurfacing, you require more money. So we do acknowledge that yes, there have been challenges in terms of services on the ground, but at the same time, there are places that we've been doing better in terms of ensuring that we deliver on the services. It could be in different areas, even here around your area. Possibly there are roads that have been redone, they've been resurfacing. I might not have the exact words with me currently, but there is work being done on roads. There is work that has been done on robots. In fact, even in this budget allocation, we think that it will go a long way in helping us to address the road infrastructure. That is why our budget is focused in the main on infrastructure refurbishment, which we believe is the core of the work that we must do so that we can be able to ensure that Johannesburg grows and attracts investments and all those things. That is why City Power, we're giving them about 1.2 billion. In this financial year, we're giving water about 1.2, similarly to Johannesburg Roads Agency.
I'm glad, if you'll excuse the interruption, that you touched on water, because part of the maintenance of infrastructure being poor relates and links to the constant issues around water leaks, prolonged power outages. The response to maintenance problems is also what residents are saying is that, yes, you have an issue with maintenance and a response time which is prolonged, that they wait for a long time. I mean, you'll see if a water pipe bursts, that could take days just to fix it, and the water gets wasted because the teams are not there on time to close it. That in itself frustrates residents.
Well, the frustrations are true and honest in some cases, but not far from here. And here in Brixton, we have invested money to expand on the water tower to ensure that the water supply is not interrupted around this area where we are. So that's some of the investments we're doing, but we do accept that vandalism in itself and infrastructure damage contributes to the crisis that we have. You'd find that the guys comes with big machines, firearms to steal some of the valves in our water towers, and that creates much bigger problems because we are unable to replace some of the valves immediately. You still have to try and order them and all sorts of things that will delay us being able to respond efficiently once our water reservoirs have been affected by vandalism and crime. And we
sometimes it's aging infrastructure.
Yes, we have accepted those where we know that here it's aging infrastructure, and hence we are putting 1.2 billion over the next 10 years annually to ensure that we can address infrastructure. We are also partnering with national government and other institutions like your GTEC with an intention to get them to help us to address infrastructure in Johannesburg.
Yeah.
We are also partnering with world organizations like the World Resource Institute that have also showed a positive interest in helping us to address our water infrastructure. So there's work that we're doing, and we should be able to achieve something.
MMC, the Joburg residents may also argue that the billing system is a complete mess. They overcharged, rates and taxes are high, cable theft is rife, which then begs the question. I mean, you mentioned the heavily armed people coming in to steal some of the infrastructure. Why aren't you pumping in resources to now guard infrastructure? Because you're losing more money trying to repair instead of, trying to prevent these incidents.
Well, it is important to note that there are competing interests, and we have to prioritize what we need to do. And hence, we are saying we need to partner with the South African Police Service and, where possible, with the National Defence Force to help us to guard and protect some of our infrastructure. It's a big challenge, but we have also put some money into bylaw enforcement with the intention to help us to fight crime and try and protect as much as we can the infrastructure. There's generally a lawlessness in Johannesburg, and something has to be done, and we need partnership with government to help us deal with this. But we also need communities to also help us and play a particular role in ensuring that infrastructure is not damaged.
Yeah.
So that is the work that unfortunately we have to do, but we can't invest all our money into security when there are other competing interests that we have to invest in. And remember, we have to raise almost 70% of our own money as local government to be able to support the programs that we're talking about. We only get very little grants, which are not really huge, to support our budget.
Very well. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming in studio at a very late evening. But of course, appreciating the time, City of Johannesburg Finance MMC Dada Morero speaking to us about some of the pressing challenges the City of Johannesburg is facing and solutions, and how money budgets will be utilized.